Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, chapter 16, verse 35, takes a shovel full of hot coals and a scoopful of incense. Verse 13, he places the incense on the fire before God, and he covers the cloud of, so that the cloud of incense covers over the kapores. What's the kapores? The kapores is a gold cover to the ark on which the keruvim were suspended above. So the incense makes a cloud above the cover of the ark, Asher Oidus, and that's where the tablets were in. V'lo yamus, and he shall not die. What does it mean he shall not die? He has to do this exactly right, or else he'll die. He was at a risk for death. And the legend is that the Kohanim kept dying in there every year, the high priest, and they had to drag them out with a rope. I don't actually remember ever seeing that in the Gemara, but that was the legend. It says in the Gemara that a lot of the Kohanim Gedolim didn't last a year, but I don't remember that exact legend in the Gemara. That's in the fire pan. So they shouldn't die. But if he doesn't do this exactly right, tikna chayav mita, he's subject to the death penalty. If he makes a mistake, he's liable for death. Very severe.
It says that incense makes the cloud which serves as a screen to protect it conceals Hashem's presence.
That's a very beautiful explanation. Where does he get that? Do you have a footnote? Very beautiful. Yoma? Okay. Okay. So he got it from the Talmud. And so he had slaughtered his bull as his own personal sin offering. So he takes from the blood of the bull, and he sprinkles with his finger on towards the cover of the ark, Kedma, towards the eastern front of the ark cover. So what does this mean, the eastern front? Let me just explain it to you. I guess when you go to the western wall today and you look up, you're looking up the walls, the retaining wall for the Temple Mount. So it's called the Western Wall because it's on the westernmost part of the Temple Mount. So the temple's back is what you would see if you could just go on an elevator and it would take you up. You would be looking at the back of the temple. And in the back section of the temple is the Holy of Holies. And inside the Holy of Holies is the Ark. So if you could have X-ray vision and look through the back of the temple, you would see the back of the Ark. And then the front of the Ark would be the eastern part, and that's where Aaron would be standing, and that's where he would be sprinkling the blood. So, okay. And in front of the kaporas, he should sprinkle 7 times min adam betzbo, from the blood with his finger. Okay, we're studying tonight as a yortzei for Barbara's father. What's your father's Hebrew name, Barbara? Yaakov. And what do you know what was his last name? What? Yaakov Schlechter. We need to get you a chumash. We need to get you a Yaakov and Chana Abraham. You can get you your own one. You want me to get it for you? It's right there in the second bookshelf. You'll see the second. Those are the Talmuds. Those are the Talmuds. Right there, the second bookshelf from the end, you'll see the red chumashim. So what does it mean he sprinkles with the blood? Rashi says, Hazah achas b'mashma. That implies 1 sprinkling. So he does, and then he does, so that's 1 above and 7 below. Now, none of the sprinklings actually touch our cover. So what he would do is he would sprinkle with the blood once up. He would go like this, once up, and then he would do 7 sprinkles going down. He would do 1 up and 7 down. First, he goes up. This is an atonement process. I think it's significant that first you go up. It's the atonement process is not about beating you down, it's about elevating you. And once we realize that, then he gets rid of 7 times. That's just a drash. That's not. I don't believe I saw that in the Talmud, but still makes sense. Now, after he takes the blood, so he has 2 sin offerings in there. One is his own personal sin offering, his bull, and then there was the goat, which is the sin offering for the people. Verse 15. He takes the goat, which is the sin offering of the people. He takes the goat, which is the sin offering for the people, and he brings the blood from the temple into the Holy of Holies. So he basically has slaughtered the goat, and he brings its blood into the Holy of Holies. And all this we're going to read about in Musaf and Yom Kippur, where we say achas, achas v'achas, achas v'shtayim, achas v'shalosh, achas v'arba, 1, 1 and 1, 1 and 2. So it's all only once up, and then all the others are down, but he counts. He has to count. Well, there's another idea I heard. Why does he always count the one up first? So it's to remind us that we have all the blessings. That you always say, let's say when you do the tithe, Zur of Palm said, when you do the tithe, you have to give your 10th animal to God. But you don't just look at it and separate the 10th. You say 1 for me, 2 for me, 3 for me, 4 for me, 5 for me, 6, 7 for me, 8 for me, 9 for me. 10th is for Hashem. We're reminding ourselves of all the blessings that we have. When we give God, we're just giving God just like a very small amount. Very, very, we have so much. So then you take this blood and you do with its blood, just like he did with the blood of the bull. He sprinkles it on the cover and before the cover. So let's see what Rashi says. This is the goat for the people. The bull atoned for the Kohanim. The goat atones for Israel. This is the same goat which the lot for Hashem fell. There were 2 goats identical, and he brought them in front of him, and one drew a lot on it that said for Hashem, and that's this goat that was slaughtered. The other goat got the lot that said Azazel. That was sent into the wilderness. We saw yesterday. Excuse me. It was sent off into the wilderness to be tossed off a cliff and die that way. That's a very good question. Well, first of all, they ran far. They ran into the Judean wilderness. But nobody has ever identified with satisfaction to scholars the exact cliff that it went towards. I mean, the Judean wilderness has plenty of cliffs, but nobody's identified it because it's a little bit symbolic. And also, there's the one guy went out there by himself with the goat. For all we know, he didn't make it all the way. You know what I'm saying? So we never identified the exact cliff of the mountain. So Kashera Saladama par, like the blood of the bull, 1 above and 7 below. Verse 16. V'chipera kodesh mitumot b'nei Yisrael, and then hold on, I'm gonna take out my earbuds. It's making me clogged.
Rabbi?
Yes.
I've been thinking about the goat. It sounds to me a lot like the Akedah in terms of the feeling, the conversation, the why are we doing this, and why did they do that? And that what you just said, that maybe he never made it, maybe he didn't go, maybe he changed, maybe things changed.
He was
Somehow,
called the designated man. He was called the Ishiti, the designated man. And that's all very significant. Like, why was he chosen? He was the designated man. You're right.
well, Abraham, same thing. So it's another way. It connects well with the reading, the other readings from the holidays, and it brings us back to that story again.
Yeah, it's a very good point. It's about sacrifice.
And what if that's your best goat? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you have to bring a goat without a blemish. It has to be
Well,
one.
it was a communal goat, but they were identical.
That's right. Right. Yeah, but and they had to be, well brought up and well fed and worked
Right.
hard to
He
get them.
inspected them.
And maybe
Okay.
they were studs too. They were goats that could have made more goats. So it's a sacrifice. It's something you really have to give up, and you don't really want to. And you don't know why Hashem is asking you to do this stuff.
Very nice. So very nice. So let's see the next verse. What does the next verse say? Thank you, Deborah. Thank you. So somebody, okay. Oh, Mordechai Neviva. V'chiper al kodesh, and he atones from the when he shall bring an atonement upon the sanctuary, mitumot b'nei Israel, from their ritual impurities, mipishayim l'kol chatotam, and from their iniquities, from their willful sins, for all their sins. And so he shall do in the Ol Moed, meaning to say, we're going to talk about what sin it's atoning for, and you're going to be surprised that in Yom Kippur, he goes into the Holy of Holies, and he atones for a sin that's almost irrelevant to our lives today. You'll be like, this is the center of the Yom Kippur service, and it's hard for us to relate to. But then he goes out and he repeats this ritual to a degree in the main sanctuary of the temple. So what does it mean he atones for the sins of Bnei Israel, from the ritual impurities of Bnei Israel? And it's for the sin. What sin is he atoning for? Meaning he only goes into the Holy of Holies one day a year. The sin that he's atoning for is our nechnasin lemikdash b'tumah, for somebody who enters into a state, into the Beit HaMikdash in a state of ritual impurity. Hello there, Aviva. Thank you so much, Mordechai. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll bring it down. We'll bring it down afterwards. Oh, Ben, thank you. I'll take that. Oh, Ben, do me a favor. Can you bring the, I'll do it, Ben. Thank you, Ben. Yeshikoach. Ben is going to be, tomorrow he's going to lose a lot of his wisdom. Teeth. Okay. So it's the sin of entering into the temple in a state of ritual impurity. And it was not known to them in the end, as it states, means, let's say they entered into the temple while they were ritually impure and they didn't know. So how would they ever achieve atonement? This is how they achieved atonement. It's kind of an esoteric sin. You would think that when the Kohen Gadol goes into the Holy of Holies, he's going to achieve atonement, the sin of gossip, disrespect, theft. You could come up with a lot of possibilities of sins that we would assume are more severe. But
shouldn't you be atoning for those yourself? You know when you've done that.
You don't necessarily know that you've done all these sins. You might have stolen without realizing it. These are
Much
accidents.
less likely than knowing that you're in a state of ritual impurity.
Yeah, okay, but okay, those right. It doesn't come for purposeful sins, but accidental sins. I'm just saying, like the whole notion of ritual purity is a notion that we today have a hard time relating to. Like in India, where they had the caste system, or they still have it, I guess, right?
It's not legal.
Oh, it's not legal. So there, you see, like people didn't want to live downstream from somebody who has is maybe ritually impure. The whole concept of ritual purity is something which we say is for the most part not at all relevant today. So we have a very hard time relating to it. And then the verse says to me, Pishehem, and from their willful sins, Afa nechnasa meze betuma. And it also atones for somebody who enters the temple purposely in a state of ritual impurity. And after he does this, he shall do the same thing in the main sanctuary. Rashi says, just like he sprinkles 1 up and 7 down from the bull and 1 up and 7 down from the goat inside the Holy of Holies, 1 above and 7 below. So too he sprinkles on the curtain from the outside. Both of them. So he takes the blood of the bull and the blood of the goat, and he takes it outside and he sprinkles towards the curtain. There's a whole dispute whether it was actually on the curtain. One rabbi says, I think it was Rabbi Yossi. He said, I went to Rome and I saw the blood on the curtain. Oh, so Rashi tells us something beautiful. We look at this verse we just read, verse 16. That God dwells with them amidst their impurity, and the fundamental teaching is even though they are tamei, the Shekhinah is amongst them. That's a very beautiful idea. Even though we're impure, imperfect, the Shekhinah is amongst them. Then the Rashi tells us, verse 17, the verse says, and nobody should be in the Ol Moed when he comes to atone until he leaves. When he goes in to do this ritual service, he's the only one who's allowed to be there by himself. Nobody's allowed to be there. In general, this is a law of the Kohen. Every time a Kohen serves in the temple, now of course everything I say could be wrong, but I believe that every time a Kohen serves in the temple, he had to be there by himself. Nobody else was allowed to be there with him. In any part, once you go into the doors of the temple, only one person was allowed at a time. And then he atones for himself, for his household, and for all of Israel. That's what we do in the service. He does 3 confessions. And the confession is read. He says, Chatasi, Avisi, Pashati. He says, I've sinned, I confess for myself. And then it says, and my household for all the Kohanim. And the last one is for all the community of Israel. And then he goes out to the altar that's before God. So which altar is this? Let's see what Rashi tells us. Oh, let me stop there. Let me read it right now. But he goes out to the altar that's before God, and he does it there. He does the atonement on it. And this is a big dispute in the Talmud. How does he do this? He takes the blood from the bull and the blood from the goat, and he places it on the horns of the altar around. So he then mixes the blood of the bull and the blood of the goat, and he sprinkles it. So until now, he's done 16 sprinklings. He's going to do another 16, presumably, on the horns of the altar and around the altar. It's a dispute how many times he does it, but that's at least what some commentaries say. So which altar is he going to? This is to the golden altar, Rashi says. Zem Mizbeach HaZahav, this is to the golden altar. Shuvnei Hashem Be'echo, before God in the sanctuary. Ma'atam Omer V'yatsa, why does it say he shall go out? Because he had sprinkled on the curtain and at no time had he stood from the golden mizbeach and altar and sprinkled. The Torah therefore requires him to go out into the area which is from the altar and beyond. He begins from the northeastern corner. He makes atonement on it. And what's the atonement? He mixes them together. Verse 19. And here he sprinkles 7 times. So Rashi says on this one, he sprinkles 7 times. And then he sanctifies it, and people are sanctified from the tumah. Rashi says, how does he do it? First he places the application on the horns, all right, and then afterwards he sprinkles it 7 sprinklings. But friend, we have a very special moment. Izzy has gotten his license. Now, what do you think he does the first day he gets his license? What does Izzy do the first day he gets his license? Comes to yeshiva to study and to daven, right? Yasher koach. Let's stop the recording here. And Izzy, I want to take a picture of you.